Hello, Tabitha.
Hi, Jen.
Hello, hello. Let's just start with what gives you the feeling of walking above the earth?
Ah, yes. That feeling for me is when I've just engaged in a story with someone, when they've told me their story.
Hmm.
And I've walked through that with them, and I come out feeling as if I've walked in their shoes.
Cool. So tell me more about this. Tell me, where does the storytelling come from, and what's exciting you right now?
Where it comes from. As a kid, I always was the kid at family dinners who we had dinner and the kids would go off to play and they'd be pulling at the parents, shirt. Can I go play? Can I go play? Am I done eating? And they would all rush off to play, but I would stay at the table. And my aunt would have her, she'd ask me, hey, do you want your special coffee? Just a little bit of coffee, mostly whipped cream and cinnamon. And I
Sounds
couldn't
delicious.
wait. Yeah. And it is. I still have them actually. I couldn't wait for those family dinners because at the end, that's when the stories would start. And that was my favorite part. The kids would go off to play and I'd stick around for the stories. I love them. And my grandmother had always said that she wanted her story written one day,
Hmm.
but she was somebody who hadn't talked about it very much. And of course, I was so curious. So I finally said to her one day, well, I know you wanted to hire a ghostwriter. You haven't done it yet. Why don't I get started? Just like a switch that flipped. And she said, okay. So
Okay.
I went off to start that journey with her. And I didn't buy a how-to guide. I didn't ask for any advice. I just followed this intuition I had of how to do it. And we went off having these conversations together and I sat recording them. We even went on a trip to Hungary where she's from. And we went off to dive into her story. And I realized that she was the last of, and that meant she had been in a labor camp when she was a child, and for years with her mother as a prisoner. And all those people had gone on to pass away of natural causes and illnesses and so forth. And none of them had told the story of what had happened. So if she wasn't to chronicle and record her story, the story of what happened to all those people would be lost.
Mm.
So the importance of that really hit me. But not so much just that. What I learned from her story was I came to learn so much about myself. And I just
Amazing.
felt called. I'd been working in politics and in business, and those career paths were so driven by, numbers and profits and, numbers in politics equal support. And in capital markets, investment equals growth. And then all of a sudden I go, well, what's my intention with storytelling? And I mean, really what I want to do is I want to tell people to pick up the phone and call their grandparents.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
so different. I want them to pick up the phone and call them or go visit them. So it was a really, really big shift. But everything in my life that started to happen started to pull me toward that. And
Cool.
there off I went. And
And
Life Paper emerged, my business.
life to paper. And did you ever think that this could be a business, or at what point did you start considering it as a business?
I started considering it as a business when I sat with a very special person, and he had told me that he sits on this natural gift society, and that somebody on that society, they had lost him recently, and he had been doing this work, and he said to me, I think you have this gift, and would you carry his torch for us? And then I said, it gave me kind of this courage, and I felt like I had a responsibility.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. So when did the business start, like in the business sense, and when did it start, or what stage is it in now?
So now I'm in my fifth year.
Amazing.
So I started, all I knew is that I wanted to help people put their lives to paper.
Hmm.
And, some people, what that looks like, a ghostwriter, they think that that has to be an important person. Like they have had to have built a big business, or, you know, um, built up a great deal of wealth. And for me, though, that was never the intention. I believe that the ordinary people are
Hmm.
extraordinary, and that it's, I've come to find, at least, that through the stories that I've been so blessed to write, that's where there's everyone got to do this work. Everyone's stories ought to be chronicled.
Mm.
So Life's of Paper's intention is to help everyone get their life chronicled in some way, whether it's by working with me as a ghostwriter, through a workshop, through one-on-one, or privately recording
Hmm.
it online. So it's evolved quite a bit over this time, and that's the dream,
Hmm.
is that we offer all those services.
Amazing. And it's funny, I heard a photographer speak once about, doing family portraits, in the sense of, like, think about what you have at the end of your life,
Mhm.
and those memories of a certain periods of time, like when that's captured in a frame of the people that meant most to you, there's no amount of money that could really replace that. You know what I mean? To have that as a thing. And I never would have thought that in this, and I feel like what you're doing, it gives me a similar feeling of like, of carrying on that deep personal message of what people have meant to each other over a lifetime. And does it tend to be people who are usually later in life?
Not always. I mean,
Interesting.
yeah, I know. I think we're all storytellers.
Yeah.
And I think that, and some people say, I don't have much of a story, or I'm not a writer, or things like that. But interesting enough, like, I truly believe we're all narrating our own story in our head all the time. And it just takes a significant amount of compassion and insight to get that story out.
Yeah.
That's why I believe that I have that, like Tabitha has that, and through our processes, we can help people do that.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important. I've cried with
I
clients,
can imagine.
and I've watched them heal through things, and come to understanding about things they didn't realize had things in their life that had meaning. And I've had people come to me in their lives when they're losing their spouses to Alzheimer's, and they haven't had a spoken conversation with them in years, yet we've come to realize that they have yet to have their last conversation, because the two of them found new ways to communicate. That when they met, they started a conversation that has never ended. That even though they stopped speaking, they found new ways to communicate, in the two of them. That's just a result of how strong their connection is.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I think there's something to be said for working with someone else to put your story on paper, or with using a process. And I think that one day when I decided to do my own, people always ask me, "Have you written yours yet?" Or "How do you want to be remembered?" was a question that I was asked recently, and I was taken back, because I spend a lot of time writing about how others want to be remembered, and not about myself. And I said, when it comes time to do that, I do want to work with someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I can almost see it now. I know we just met, we're just talking about this, but I can see it now as like what you learned in your own story of helping people tell their own stories. And I don't know if that would be like an anthology, or kind of like a meta thing. I can see it now, like almost like it's giving me kind of like PostSecret vibes. Do you know that series?
So much.
Yeah.
I almost feel like every story was given to me as a gift in my life for a reason. Like, the timing of everything has been, I could sit here for hours telling you about
That's cool. That's cool.
each one, and how it's come to shape me and guide me, like, in my path.
Yeah.
When I've needed to make decisions in my own life. And I've had clients sitting there telling me, "You don't realize what this is done for me," and I want to almost tell them, "You don't realize what you've done for me today." as a result of what you've told me, it's helped me raise the bar, really carve out my values as well as an individual.
Cool. Amazing.
I know my grandmother's story. She was telling me about when she was in the labor camp with her mother, and they hadn't seen a decent meal in so long, even before they were there. And while they were in the camp, it had been a year or so, and one family was managed to have a cake snuck in by another relative, but the guards caught them. So they took the cake, and to make an example out of them, they actually cut it up and they gave it to the children. So my grandmother, maybe 6 years old, she took her piece, and she took it back to her bunker. And when it came time that there was an opportunity where she wouldn't be noticed, she took that piece of cake and she brought it back to the family. And that just showed me that she chose faith over fear, and she did what was right. Even at the time when she faced the most uncertainty, like perhaps she'd never see another sweet for the rest of her life. She didn't know what would come of her life. She chose to do the right thing. She chose faith, and that made it that much easier to continue to do that for the rest of her life. And now she tells me, she doesn't have any fear of being without or fear of uncertainty. She just knows as long as you do the next right thing, all will be well.
The next right thing. I love that. Yeah. I love that. Well, this has been great. I want to be respectful of your time here. And actually, I have a couple more questions. What would you say for anyone watching who wants to get better at telling their own story? Are there a couple tips that you've kind of picked up through talking to people? Like, what really works well?
I think journaling is powerful. Journaling something that I find to be my great grandmother. I just had a dream about her recently. One of the things she told me was to always keep a journal. And this stream of consciousness writing, where you just put pen to paper and whatever comes out, let it flow, is really powerful. And I would say, just through conversation. And someone, I come to find that I've become a better storyteller by spending more time with people who I admire storytelling.
Yes.
That person that I just really love their stories, well, I spend more time with them.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. And before we wrap up here, what would you say you most need help with right now? That's a good question. Oh, the online, just I admire so many people for how they share their message online. And this chat like we're having right now, where I talk about business and the intention of it and the purpose where it came from. I don't know if that translates online. And I would like it to. Cool.
I don't often have the opportunity to have these chats with the people that I have online. We lose touch. We see each other here and there. They don't know what I've been up to maybe in the last five years, or since university, even more. So that I would love to be able to do. Yeah,
I can totally see how that could happen with a community being built around this, and giving challenges to people, or inviting people to share their own stories online, or kind of picking random ones and sharing them on social media. But thank you for that, and thank you for your time today. I hope to keep in touch and hear much more about this. And where can people find you online, and how can they connect with you?
They can connect with me, Tabitha Rose, on Facebook, and Life to Paper Publishing on Instagram, and Life to Paper is on Facebook as well. So there's a few options, and please reach out. Any questions on how you can share your story, or if you have an important person in your life that you feel, they have a story to tell, and you want to help them record it or chronicle it, put it to paper, any way I can help to do that, I would love to.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you too, Dan.
Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye.